Hello, my name is Greg Crinklaw, and this video is to help explain and get you started on the real-time observing tool for beta testing, the SkyTools for visual. And just a reminder that this tool is very much like the nightly planner, except it works in now. And because it works in now, it always uses the time of now. So all the calculations like the difficulty and so forth are all for now. It doesn't work very well in the middle of the afternoon, which it is here. So I have set it to a location in Spain so that it will be nighttime. And this green line here is the current time. And the observing list here and its controls and filters is exactly the same as the nightly planner. The only difference is that there's this mode here, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that we can change. And it's got this panel here with telescope and time information. Now, a lot of people think of this as something used just for controlling your telescope, especially a go-to telescope, but you don't even have to have it connected to the telescope to use this. In fact, I'm going to use it with my 18-inch Dob and use finder charts on the screen, okay, to find things. So we're going to pretend I'm outside in Spain right now, and I'm using my 18-inch Dob. Now, there's three modes here: Prime Object, Sky Tour, and Spreadsheet. This is Spreadsheet mode. I probably shouldn't have done Spreadsheet mode. It's here because the other two are sort of oppressive. Once you select one of those modes, especially if it's the middle of the day, it's not going to show you anything, it's not going to do anything. So at least in this mode, you can look at your observing list and you can change things around, you can set filters or whatever, so you don't have to worry about not being in the middle of the night. But other than that, really, it's very much like the nightly planner, so you might as well use the nightly planner. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start the Sky Tour. And it's going to have to do some calculations. This is actually a very big list, so it's going to take a little while to do those calculations. We'll just be patient here while it thinks. I probably should have used a shorter list.
Tutorial mode is enabled. To start your Sky Tour, press Start Tour. This will open the tour window. To turn off the tutorial, press the settings button on the tour window.
Okay, so the first thing it did is it started talking, and you can turn that off. That's just a tutorial, but you should probably keep it on the first couple times you use it. What it's done is it's created a list of objects here, very similar to the nightly planner in that new optimum observing time mode that I showed you in the last video. I've set it to take 3 minutes to find an object and 2 minutes to view it, because that'll make this video go more quickly. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to click the Start Tour button.
Start finding. SkyTools is waiting for you to tell it that you have started star hopping to the object.
Okay, so that's the tutorial. I'm going to click Start Finding, which tells it what I'm doing, and also in this case opens up the finder chart. Now, did you notice that there's all sorts of weird stuff going on up here? That's the kind of thing I'd like you to report. This only does that in full screen mode, and I'm not really sure why. It's in windowed mode it doesn't do that, so I'm going to work on fixing that. What we're seeing here, I can turn this off. This is my usual 3-view finder chart: naked eye, finder, and eyepiece. If I was printing this out, I would print that out. But since I'm using it on the screen, I'm going to go into this new single view mode, and I'm going to start in the naked eye view, and I'm going to go and I'm going to put my Rigel Quick Finder right here, just down into the right of that star. Then I'm going to go into Finder here. This is my magnifying finder field of view. I'm going to find this star, and then I'm going to center it so that it looks more or less like that. And then we go to the eyepiece view, and here's our object.
You should have found the object and started viewing. Press pause to view this object until ready to move on. Press skip to next object if you are ready to move on early. If enabled, object information will now be read to you. Saturn Nebula is a planetary nebula in Aquarius. It is magnitude 8.3, with an apparent diameter of 28 arcseconds. Saturn Nebula is currently located very low in the northeastern sky, at an air mass of 3.5. This object is currently obvious in a Skyhound 18. The ideal eyepiece is the Panoptic 22mm with the 2x Barlow. It appears as a ring structure, bipolar. The magnitude of the central star is 12.8. This planetary nebula is 3,200 light-years away. It is 27,400 astronomical units in diameter. This object was discovered by William Herschel in 1782 using a 18.7-inch telescope. The Dreyer summary reads, "A magnificent or otherwise interesting object, planetary nebula, very bright, small, elliptical, 1 minute."
Okay, there you go. Now you imagine yourself out at the telescope. Maybe this is on your laptop. You don't want to be looking at the laptop, so it just spoke all that information. There's settings up here to configure how much information that you want it to actually say. And this is where I had it auto open that chart. It doesn't have to do that. Here's where I control the tutorial. I can turn that off. I could also click this to have it speak the info again. And it said 1 minute at the end there because I gave it a very short viewing time, and very soon it's going to
start finding. SkyTools is waiting for you to tell it that you have started star hopping to the object.
We're moving on to the Ring Nebula now. So I'm going to click the Start Finding button, or I could press the space bar, and again did that weird thing where it took a little while to come up. And here I am now. Of course, I can find this without this chart, but you get the idea. There's the Ring Nebula. And if you see for eyepieces up here, I can select the finding eyepiece. It's whatever I have it set to. I can select the ideal eyepiece. I can set it to a specific eyepiece. I can see the Ring Nebula is not showing up, and that seems to be a bug that just happened, well, today. None of the deep sky objects are currently showing up. I don't know why. I will fix it before you find it. Well, so right now I've got a Teleview Radian and a focal extender, 2x Barlow. Basically, I'm going to turn off the Barlow. So there we are there. Coma correctors in. If I were to stick in a mirror diagonal, I could tell it to do that. So that's basically how that works. And I'm going to close that, and we're back to this. And you can see it uses a large font. It takes a summary of the information on the real-time tool, cuts out things you don't really need, and sticks it full screen. And that's the basic idea here. So if you're using this on, say, a tablet, you can see it from farther away, and it's much easier to read. Of course, normally you would have night vision on, and you would want to really spend as little time as possible looking at this screen.
At this time, you should have found the object and started viewing. Press pause to view this object until ready to move on.
Okay, I turned off the tutorial, and I'm going to turn off the auto speak information here so I can continue to talk. So that's how this tour mode works. The idea is to allow you to plan out a night of observations where you go from one object to another, and it will tell you about that object and basically minimize the amount of time you spend at the telescope. Now, if you are using a push-to telescope, you're going to get a push-to diagram up here that you can use to push to your object. That's going to be on this tour mode dialog. And I'd really like to hear what you think about all this in terms of actually using it. In my experience, it works much better than I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be too rigorous and telling me what to do all the time, but it like that. But it turns out that in practice, I actually really kind of like it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, at great risk to the computer here, turn this off because I've been having some problems. That's tour mode. So let's say you don't like that. Let's look at the other mode. This is the prime object mode. And again, this is a very long list, so it's going to take a while to update all that information here. One of the advantages of using the SkyTour mode is all the calculations are done ahead of time. It won't have to calculate during the night unless you decide to restart it, which you could do. I could have shown you. You could have paused it and looked at an object as long as you wanted. You could have said, I'm done with this one, move on to the next one. But here in prime objects mode, what it's doing is it's saying the very best thing to look at is this one, Campbell's hydrogen star. And the second best one is this one and this one. So it's a more free-form version of what we were just doing. And it tells you how long I have to view each of these objects until we reach the end of the green period. So in this case, it's 42 minutes. And that will update regularly. And so in this case, you can just sort of look at what you want. And let's say I really want to go to this one right now. So I can go there and I can look. And it will, if I'm connected to the telescope, it will know where the telescope is and it will update things so that it will change this list to put objects that are near the Fetus Nebula as the next objects to look at. So you're going to always be observing objects near the top of this list, similar to the way the SkyTools 3 real-time works. It's just more sophisticated. So that's the real-time tools. You can also, remember, you can bring up the object information, except it goes on the other monitor that time, and you can turn on the speech, so you can get a similar thing going on with speaking information. It's just you would be controlling it manually. There it is.